We blew up the old spot, so now we're coming to you live from a whole new studio. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Garage Authority Podcast, powered by A1. I'm your host, Jonathan Phillips, and today we are in the new studio. We are out in the garage. It's a garage door podcast. We're going to do it in a garage. Now, us being in a new studio, I figured it was best to bring on the newest trainer at the academy, my very close friend. He's been doing this for like 13, 15, he's old, and he knows what he's talking about with garage doors. The great and powerful Andrew Rosenbaum. What's up, brother?
What's going on, bro? Thank you for having me.
Yes.
Nice new studio or garage.
Garage, right? Totally. I think what we've been doing in episodes is we kind of do these like broad spectrum where we're hitting a bunch of points. So we kind of wanted to focus on today, how can people tell if their spring's about to break? And I just wanted to focus on that. So if you're going to listen in to this podcast, this is going to be more than you probably wanted to know about springs, but you're definitely going to know when your spring's fatiguing, if it's about to break, and warning signs to look for. So I brought in, obviously, Andrew. He's been doing this a long time. He's so good at his job that we finally got him in the training academy. So this is probably one of the best experts that we can find. So I wanted to start with, you're a homeowner, right? You're listening in. What are the most common warning signs that a spring is about to break?
You know, we have the easiest one to hear, which is noises, right? All of a sudden your system starts making some kind of weird noises. That could be a telltale sign that the system's pulling on itself or not supporting itself. Once we get past noises, there's also just the physical looking at the springs. They should lay nice and flat. You know, as they get older, sometimes you'll see a spring kind of get a little wavy look to it.
Okay.
That could be a telltale sign that the metal spring is fatiguing.
Okay.
Most motor manufacturers actually recommend that homeowners detach the door with their emergency release and feel the weight of the door, or as we call, check the balance of the door.
Right.
We know not a lot of people do that, right? Nobody's going out there doing that. No one's reading the fine print in the motor owner's manual.
They're watching this video because it broke. Finally, there was no prep, and I'm not. Listen, I get it, but our job is garage doors, so we're gonna scream from the mountaintops about how important it is. We're here to help. Now, whenever you were saying that balance test, being in the training academy, we're always teaching students to do it with the door down so it doesn't turn with a guillotine. Because I can't tell you how many times I've said, "Oh yeah, just pull the manual release," and they're like, "The door fell to the ground." And I was like, like that little, yes, always on the ground.
Key point.
But why, can you explain, whenever they do that in the balance test and the spring is starting to fatigue, that early warning sign, like why is the door getting heavier?
So it's a great question. Your spring is your main muscle that provides the lift for the door. The biggest misconception is the motor lifts the door.
Right.
The motor is just guiding the door up. So when the door is in the down position and we disconnect it, you should be able to easily get your door up and down. That being said, we look for the door to be about 0 to 5 pounds on the ground, which is a great working capacity for the motor to guide it up and catch it on the way down.
Right. So whenever that door's getting heavy, that's the spring losing tension. Essentially, over time, that metal's starting to fatigue. And now that's like whenever we get into that range of that 10, 15, 20 pounds. I mean, you've gone to doors that are 40, 60. Spring's intact.
Yeah.
But the door's still. That's why, I mean, with some people, just if your door's in manual mode, you could even get like a bath scale.
Yeah, very easily.
And just from in your home and kind of weigh that door. If it's anything above 5 pounds. Now, I will say, because I know there will be some technicians, there are special doors that maybe you're not going to get that 0 to 5 pounds, like those wood overlays.
Yeah. And I mean, in a door situation like that, I would say, okay, let's be a little understanding. And maybe extend it to 10 pounds.
Yeah.
Anything more than that, it's really putting a strain, not just on the motor, but then you start getting into the strain of the door components themselves, the hinges, the rollers, the bearings, the drums, the cables, everything's starting to get pulled on and worked harder because it's not being supported correctly.
Right. Now, what type of door movement, maybe when it's hooked up to the operator, would a client notice if the springs are starting to fatigue, like as they're operating the door?
Maybe all of a sudden the door's not opening as fast as it used to, or it's closing faster than it used to.
Gravity.
You know, you have, again, kind of going back to the noises, you know, all of a sudden the motor's making a louder noise or seems like it's having to work harder. There are a lot of little intricate things that, unless you've been doing this a long time and can pick up on them, you don't know. And for most homeowners, it's usually waiting till all of a sudden they hit the button and the door doesn't open that they realize there's a real problem.
Right. And one thing that I always notice is if you're a homeowner and the garage door goes up and down, I've gone to plenty of houses to where I'm just like, that's not right. And then they're like, it's been doing that. It's fine.
It's fine, right? Like,
but on the operator, especially if they get those like store-bought operators with the piece together rails, like you'll see a lot of like aggressive jerking motion, whether it's opening and it kind of bounces up and down and then smooths out and then it stops and it's swaying back and forth. You can see the rail start to bow down a little bit. This is just
a little slack in the belt sort of situation.
The belt chain starting to droop, all that stuff. It's severely and utterly and only linked to spring tension all the way through. So what should homeowners do when they see these warning signs? What's the next step? Should they touch it?
No. We don't advise that.
Yeah.
The best thing to do is call out a professional. You know, let somebody get hands and eyes onto your door and your system and get it back to a safe, reliable system, which becomes a quieter, smoother operating system when everything's doing what it's supposed to.
And then do you have any examples? I mean, I'm sure you have some stories of like, maybe you've gone to a call and you've seen these warning signs, tried to explain it to a client. They refuse at that time. Maybe you're out there a week later, a month later. I think the quickest that I've personally done it was this, I think the home was built in like 1990, the early 90s. So they had galvanized springs. And those springs stretch a lot and they lose tension because they don't break, but these are the doors that get 40, 60 pounds on the ground without the springs breaking. And, you know, I was talking to him, I was like, this is bad because it was a vinyl back door and it was like 60 pounds on the ground. But I read the spring information because he's like, is it the wrong spring? I was like, no, it was the right spring. The IPPT is right, but it's time before something bad happens. I got a call 2 hours later and that spring broke. And I came back there and he's like, I looked at the camera to make sure that you didn't mess with it. And he's like, you didn't touch it. He's like, because the coincidence is crazy.
It's up there.
So that was the one time where I'm like, I'm glad that there was like video recording in the garage.
One thing I do, and I try to explain to my clients, especially if I can tell the spring is worn out, like you said, it's lived its life, it hasn't broke. The easiest analogy to explain to a homeowner is most of us as kids, we play with a rubber band, right? You play with it, you stretch it. If you do it long enough, you either get to the point where the rubber band loses its elasticity and then it's just kind of loosey-goosey, doesn't want to come back together, or it pops and breaks. For us in Phoenix, you know, with our high heat in the summers, that metal softens. And so, especially those galvanized springs, they tend to stretch out or relax long before they're broken.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed this, but you go to the big box stores to buy one of those DIY motors. They went from making 1/3 horse to 1/2 horse to 3/4 to 1 horse to 1 1/4.
Yeah.
A lot of the times people are going through motors because they're not addressing the issue of the springs.
Yeah.
And so they think, I'll just get a bigger, better motor and it's good. I don't care how good a motor you put on there, how big of a strong a motor. Your springs are the main muscle that provide the lift for that door.
Yeah.
So without those springs being proper, you're just going to destroy whatever you put up there until the inevitable, it breaks. And then you have that catastrophic, what else could happen when that spring breaks?
Right. Because when it breaks, I mean, I go to a lot of people that their springs have lost tension, but they're calling me. They're like, why is my top panel not sealing? And it's like, well, the operator's pulling and it's bent that top panel. You know, they didn't have a strut or an ORB on it, or the operator like ripped out a stile or something like that. And they're just like, something's wrong with my operator. I'm like, no, That's not the
Your
problem.
operator's giving it everything it's got.
Yeah.
It's yelling at you, please help me.
Yeah. So I mean, just go out to your garage right now. Look at the springs. See if there's any type of waving in them. Test that balance. Look at that top panel. Check a spring pad while you're out there. It's what those springs in the center, that piece of wood. It's got cracks in it. Look at these things. If you see anything weird, call somebody. Just call somebody immediately. Who knows? Maybe you'll get an A1 tech out there and they'll tell you everything's fine. I doubt it, but just be safe. Because when these things, what's the worst you've ever seen a door because of a broken spring?
Oh man, I've been to some humdingers.
Yeah.
It's not even. Luckily, the spring gets to its full rewound or ready to go up again when the door hits all the way to the ground.
Yeah.
So fortunately, most of the time when the springs break, it's usually as the door's on its way down and that spring's rewinding all that tension to be ready for the next up.
Right.
So most of the time I go where a client heard a loud bang shortly after they left, when they came back and went into the house to put groceries away, all of a sudden they heard something like a shotgun going off.
Yeah.
Every time I hear that story, it's so funny. Clients are like, I ran outside. I thought someone ran into my house, crashed into the door, something fell in the garage.
It's violent.
And I went out there and everything looked fine. And I was like, what happened? They're like, well, the next morning I went to go leave for work and I hit my button and my door only opened a couple inches. Yeah, that loud bang was that spring letting go.
Well, I guess that's something to take home. If you hear a loud bang from your garage, don't go outside. Go check your springs immediately before operating the door. Because they're, like you're saying, there's a good point to where, yes, most of the time the door's in the down position. That's probably...
If you're lucky.
Yeah.
If you're lucky.
It's the safest place for a spring to break, being under full tension. But the risk with it is if people have those old motors to where maybe or turned up the forces and they didn't check
their
that
handyman
spring.
came and turned the force up just because the motor was struggling because the spring was already tired. Yeah.
Yeah,
those are scary.
That's the morning where you click the button and door's starting to go up. Maybe a panel gets ripped in half. The safest thing is if you have a good motor, it's going to go up maybe 3 to 5 inches and say,
yeah, this is too much for me. I'm not doing it today.
But those older motors, especially if you haven't
they
had
don't
your door
have those
maintenance,
safety features and things. And if you haven't had them checked, it's one of those, like, the motor's still trying. It doesn't care. It's going to keep going until it pulls something apart. It's going to open something.
Yeah, and now we're going to take this, I think on average a double car garage can be anywhere from like 150, 200, like 230, somewhere in there. And then now you have that metal, it gets contorted, ripped out of the track, and then it's just going to drag it across the top of your car. And it's like, man, if we just would have looked at it, got it maintenance, checked on the spring.
I will say, in all my years, women, as much as I hate to admit it as a man, they tend to notice weird noises and their intuition.
Yeah.
I've gone to so many jobs where the husband's like, it's fine, it's fine. The wife's like, no, I'm calling someone. Something is not fine here.
Yeah.
And I commend them every time I meet them. Like, it was your intuition that probably saved you from a catastrophic issue.
I never thought about it, but if I really look back at my jobs, it's the women that have gotten ahead of a problem just from a, like you said, that woman's intuition to where I'm like, thank goodness you called. Thank goodness you called. So if your wife is telling you that you need maintenance on your garage door, listen, it's going to save you thousands, and I mean thousands of dollars. But I think we gave the people enough information. We went over a lot today as far as springs. Do you have any last messages for anyone listening at home possibly about this subject?
If you're going to check your door, make sure it's in the down position before you release it from your motor. If you don't know how to release your door from your motor, you can Google it or try to find the manual. Or heck, give us a call. Let us come out and show you how to safely know how to get out in an emergency.
Yeah. We'll have a technician come out there. They'll show you everything that you can look for, everything that's safe for you to do. And we can give you the power as the homeowner to know when and how you need to address the situation. But Andrew, brother, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Dude. I appreciate it, dude.
Yeah, brother.
To future things. Woo!